Well, good morning, everyone. And we will work today in meditation with Rule 13. Trying to find those ways in which these quite abstruse rules, which are, for which we are missing many of the strictly technical instructions, we will still try to find the way that we can apply them with what we can do at the moment. So we will find ourselves in a state of poised relaxation following the breath, which allows us to steady the outer vehicle. We follow the breath. And we adopt the attitude of the observer. We are the observer of the outer physical form. We establish that in our consciousness. We are the detached observer of the astral body, the sentient vehicle. We are the detached observer of the mind, the lower mind. We find ourselves, we get the sense of self as being a dimensionless point of being, consciousness. The consciousness in incarnation, the soul in incarnation. A very real sense of not being what we usually identify ourselves with, but of being something else which has no space and has no time. And as we abstract further, we find that we are actually the soul. We are identifying our true focus in the world of light, the world of love, of spiritual power. It is as if, when faced with these things, in this dimension, these things are more real than the usual presentations to consciousness, which we call the vehicles of the personality. And we begin to get the sense that we are together in what is called group soul. As if we are one consciousness together, one consciousness with many different perspectives, and we reach out to include the wider group, all in presence together, as if one observer is observing through many different eyes. And wider still, so that wherever there is a human being, of whatever nature, that one observer is there too. That one consciousness is always present, wherever there is a human being. And so we get the sense, through the imagination, that we are everywhere on the globe. There is no place where the one consciousness of humanity is not, at least on this globe. And here in our group and in the extended group, we visualize the multicolored rainbow bridges, our own with the color of our soul ray and personality ray, the many bridges blended together, like a cone reaching up to a blue-white diamond at the peak of the cone. And as the line of light shoots across this bridge, we think to ourselves, all of us together, I see the greatest light. I see the greatest light. And we are in a field of invocation together as a group, here and wherever we may be tuning in. And we can call down, evoke the wisdom of the triad into our consciousness as we attempt to learn more about the process of magically working with the divine plan. We began to study yesterday Rule 13. We will ponder on some of its aspects as we hold our alignment in group soul and responsive to the wisdom of the impersonal sphere, the spiritual triad. The magician must recognize the four. Note in his work the shade of violet which they evidence, and thus construct the shadow. When this is so, the shadow clothes itself, and the four become the seven. And as we work with this rule, we will use our powers of visualization, our creative imagination, and begin to get the idea of the structure of this rule so that it is somewhat meaningful to us. We remember the purple of the etheric subplane, the light purple or violet of the super etheric subplane, the light violet of the subatomic plane, and the glorious translucent lavender of the atomic etheric subplane. We are aligned. The etheric area within the center of the head is alert. The connection with the egoic lotus is visualized, and with the jewel in the lotus, and we will undertake an imaginative process together. So all of us are creators. We are attempting to materialize something in our life, to precipitate it. We have a purpose, an objective. So think about your next step ahead and what it is you are attempting to see manifested. You're attempting to build a pattern which embodies your next step forward. So in your mind, you concentrate, you meditate, you think. What is it that I am attempting to build, to create? Next, to manifest. What is it? Try to be as clear as possible, because you are creating your circumstances and the conditions of your life according to your intention. What is it that you seek to see manifested and in which you are playing a part? Now, think of your alignment with the egoic lotus, the presence of the solar angel, the imagined jewel in the lotus, the realm of wisdom or of the spiritual triad, even the spirit itself. And lift your thought. Lift the thoughts you have been thinking on the in-breath up into the sphere of light, so that the higher influences may play upon your thoughts, but you yourself will not be thinking in the lower sense at this time. You will inhale, and as you allow the higher impressions to descend upon your mental content, you will somewhat suspend your breath, breathing very quietly, as you hold your mind steady in the descending spiritual light. And so we lift our thought into the light. We are seeking something additional to our own thoughts, something extra from the world of soul and the world of wisdom, some higher influence upon our normal thoughts. And we realize that our field of thought is gathering to itself the substance energy of the higher worlds. Something is being added. And now, in the sense of that energy flow, realizing that a connection has been imaginatively at least made, we enter again the world of thought, the mind, and we begin thinking again, reformulating in the light of the higher impression which has touched us. As we think, we attempt to clothe what may have been given in the appropriate thought within our mind. Be very clear about your thoughts, about your intention, about the purpose of what you are trying to manifest, and what has been added from contact with the higher impression. And with these clear thoughts in mind, maybe even in the form of a mantra, some very clear formulation, look at it, what you are thinking, and see the motive behind your thought. Why are you attempting to materialize this, to precipitate this? What is your motive? Which path is your thought form on? Try to feel your desire to see this thought in line with the plan manifested. So now you have a clear thought. It is a pattern which you are trying to help descend into your life. It has been nourished by the wisdom of the higher worlds, the impulses coming from the higher part of your nature. It has right motive, right desire, right orientation. Your motive is pure. It is not selfish. And now we're trying to bring it closer, your thought form closer to becoming real. A real appearance on the outer plane. And so we will do this by visualizing the way it will start to descend into the etheric worlds. Your thought is clearly in mind. Your desire is true and keen, and fills your thought form with vital power. And now we work with the imagination, first focusing in the sphere of translucent lavender, which represents the atomic subplane of the etheric plane. And it is here that our head center is found. And so, in imagination, thinking of our head center in this field of lavender, we reinforce the purpose and the will behind our descending creation, our descending thought form. Think of your head center. Think of the lavender. Reinforce the purpose of your thought form. realize that as you are doing this, you are attracting the Devic forces. You are building a shadow, a sheath for your thought and your desire. Concentrate very carefully. And so your etheric head center is involved, and retain its presence. And now in your imagination, descend into the violet, the light violet sphere, representing the subplane where your heart center is found. And concentrate on your thought form, using the powers of the heart in the field of light violet, and imaginatively render your thought form very attractive, very magnetic, very appealing. Magnetic power in light violet. And thus you know that your heart is in the project. Your head is in the project. Sustain these energies in lavender and light violet. Feeding, building the etheric sheath, which is going to descend towards manifestation. Holding them, we now visualize violet color itself, light purple, a sphere representing the third subplane, the superetheric, centered around your throat center. Visualize your thought form as active, intelligent, adaptable, able to find its proper place in the world through the exercise of coordinative intelligence. Each level of this building process in the ethers may have its own little mantra, its own symbol. It has its own chakra, its own color. As you build a balanced, etheric sheath, a shadow, for your descending thought form. And so your head and purpose are in the project. Your magnetic heart is in the project. Your intelligent throat center is in the project. The heart, the throat, the eye, allied for triple service. And now we descend into the purple itself on the fourth subplane, imagining it. And all the rest of your chakras are involved here. The solar plexus, the sacral, the base of the spine, the spleen, giving embodiment, that kind of material, etheric power, which will bring it actually onto the physical plane. Concretion, densification, the purple, adding all this to your clear thought form, highly motivated. And especially the will at the base of the spine, just as purpose is found at the crown center. Now with the inner eye, see your imagined thought form, balanced in its etheric constitution. You are clear about your thought. You know what you want to do. You are highly motivated. And as if before your mind's eye, you see your thought form with a four-colored etheric sheath, strong in purpose, attractive in heart, intelligently finding its place in the world, and with the power to precipitate. See this thought form sufficiently vibrant and magnetic so that it can attract to itself a solid sheath of dense physical matter so that your thought form can appear embodied on the dense physical planes. Imagine that it will happen, be embodied within this lower world with which we are always confronted. and begin to imagine that it is actually appearing in the world. Begin to imagine the power of the etheric structure precipitating into the world, so here and now, and in times to come, the pattern that you are conceiving is going to happen, is happening. Visualize the physical plane, the circumstances of the physical plane. It is happening. Your intention is working out. The 4 shades of violet are sustaining your etheric, physical appearance. The pattern is sustained. Your head is strengthening it. Your heart renders it magnetic. Your throat renders it adaptable and intelligent. Your lower chakras anchor it. Your will of the base center sustains it. And feel the powers on the dense level responding to your purpose and your will, so that there is a place for your pattern to work out substantially, materially. And see imaginatively all the good, the positive, the plan-related activity that is occurring because your creation is now manifesting in the dense physical world. Hold the control center in the middle of the head as you see the good results of an actual manifestation of your creation working out. Review your alignment from the highest reaches of your energy system down through your egoic lotus and the jewel in the lotus. Through all your vehicles, hold this. Through the jewel in your head center, the jewel in your heart, in your throat, in all other chakras. your thought form is repatterning the outer world. And believe that it can be so. And you will have to revisit this process, of course, as you make it clearer and clearer, and thus become more effective in your co-creatorship with the divine plan, using the ancient rules in the way we can at present to render yourself more effective. The magician must recognize the four. Note in his work the shade of violet which they evidence, and thus construct the shadow. When this is so, the shadow clothes itself, and the four become the seven. In group consciousness with your fellow souls, here and in the wider field, realize your responsibility as a white magical creator in process of being trained. Realize the laws, the rules, the careful observances, the care of the instrument, the firmness of the will required, the exactitude of action required. And resolve to do your part intelligently, with love, according to purpose, in this co-creative work. And keeping our alignment, and thinking about the work of the divine plan to illumine the mind, to reveal love, to evoke the divine will. We will together sound the great invocation, pausing between the verses, followed by the sacred word. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Okay. Well, as I think as you can see, that the attempt to make these rules practical involves quite an effort. The imagination is our best instrument in this work. Through the imagination, we can make the bridge toward the reality we are attempting to effect, bring into action. You can see how concentration cannot be for a second released. This is such difficult work. How your mind has to be as lucid as possible. How the interlude has to be very still. And the imagination brought in to approximate what is to happen in the inner worlds. We have the consecrated imagination. This is the bridge. And then, of course, the process of repetition, being very, very clear about the thought form that you want to bring through. It's got to be a good one. We have to be completely clear about what it is, what has been added to it, how it can impress the brain, and how the imagination can pull in the Davic support, and how it can operate on its own, according to the law, as it begins to create a place for itself here in the world we normally function in. So, this for us is pioneering work. We're feeling our way into it. We're only playing with a part of the full deck of cards, but we have to get everything else ready before the final pieces can be given to us. Are there any thoughts about this process as it worked out for you? As I said, to construct the thought form, and one of the meditators said she panicked. So, under pressure. It was difficult because I was under pressure until I relaxed.
It worked naturally.
And then it worked. Yes, there is pressure applied, no question about it. This is sort of seventh ray work. It's there's a lot of holding in it. There's a lot of impression. When you are impressing the brain, and the thing about the magical process is you cannot allow a single thing to get out of control, because it's the loss of control which is the great danger in this whole thing. That then the devas who are invoked can take over, and they can ruin the whole process, and as we have discussed, they can compromise the health, even the life of the would-be magician. Now, we're not there yet, of course, but it is such a, in a way, such a rigid control. That's the purpose of ritual. Everything is done right. You're leaving nothing to chance, at least as far as your own technique is concerned. I began to feel myself, as I kind of looked at the purple spheres, the violet sphere, I began to feel that as I imagined it descending, it had a life of its own. It had an ability to create a space for itself here in the physical world. That we were operating, there's law involved here. And I began to think, well, if we were more careful in what we intend to do and create, we could pave our way quite well, better than just kind of trying to make it happen. You know what I mean? Any other impressions? Yes, Anna? For me, it was very, very seven process. Shades of violet. Right. You saw them. They were vivid to you, but you have a strong color sense. Yeah. Well, it's hard to know how to visualize these things. We have to, sort of allow something to happen there. So as you were distinct about your colors. No, I don't think they are. And I think it has something to do with the degree of chakric activation we have in relation to those subplanes. Yes, I think you're quite right. I think it depends on the meditator. But DK does emphasize here that he wants a balanced form created, whatever that really means. Now, obviously, we can't even do this work unless we have an accurate third eye. But the next best thing to the third eye is a vivid imagination under control. So, we have to experiment within ourselves. Other impressions. I know it's tough going, you know what I mean? It really, I was aware of how much concentration this really takes. Now later the process might become much more fluid and more rapid, but in a way we're going step by step. It's a Saturnian thing, and we cannot rush it. We have to be very distinct about the phases. The observer, yeah. You cannot lose your center. The control center is in the middle of the head, in the region of the pineal gland in the etheric brain. This is the magnetized area. True concentration is when you formulate the thought and just relax. A split second, relax. And with that relaxation comes true concentration. But I think I understand what you're saying, because if you're always sort of forcing it, then the very energy of forcing it becomes itself an obstruction. Well, this is delicate inner work. This is pioneering work, no question about it. DK gave these rules, but they are difficult. They require missing pieces. Remember, we were discussing yesterday how he himself despairs of making things clear, because we don't have the there were 3 reasons why he couldn't come across. The condition of the ethers is certainly one of them, and our own etheric, and there were 2 others. I forget what they were, but we'll review them. Basically, the basic idea is that you as material are not up to this, but I'm making it available, for the years to come. When you really think he's laying out in a way so much of the thought form of the Aquarian age, so much of the scientific, psychological, magical approach in the Aquarian age. It's all being sort of dumped on us. Here it is. And we've got a few hundred years to chew on it, and I'm sure we'll be running into this again and again and again. Plus whatever he gives out in another 15 years and following, however he may do that when the smoke clears. Any other thoughts on these matters? Well, it's got to be done within ourselves. In a way, no one can tell you what to do here yet. You have to evolve this from within yourself, what works best for you. Then later the master will come and say, okay, these precise points, now that you are prepared intellectually, morally, in terms of and these precise points are what you do. This is when you do it. This is why you do it. This is how you do it. And you'll be ready to accept the proper advice when we are worthy to receive it. Meanwhile, who knows what the soul knows, and as we work our own inner process, revelation may come from what is already known within us. Remember, we used to know these things, quite a few of them, and the soul does know. So perhaps not only the master will reveal, but our own inner nature will disclose what is needed. It is precise work. The 7th ray is at work here. So good, everybody. That's good. And we are at the point where we can take our break and come back around 9:30, 9:35, something like that. So thank you for your efforts. We'll try to forge ahead with these rules in our imagination, doing our best. Okay, thank you. And for our friends who have joined us, we have about 14 people who are with us now, or some people coming and going, of course. Andrew and Anu from Estonia, and Aspasia in Greece, and Bio in Canada. And Birgitta, you would normally be in class, but okay, there you are. We're happy you're with us. And maybe Harold is there too, and Heather Downs, Laura also in Arizona, and Mar in Los Angeles, and Maria Christina Donahue in Tucson, and Mark Blacker. Mark, welcome. I don't know where you're from, but welcome. And Tuya, my wife, in Finland, and Vern Clark. Vern, I should know where you're from, but I don't. Probably America, I suspect. All right, good. Thank you for being with us. Now we have our morning meditation, which lasts about an hour. And now we have a 45-minute breakfast break here. I don't know what time it is for you. Some of you are probably going to sleep. So come back if you wish in another 45 minutes or so, and we will carry on in Rule 13. So welcome, and we'll see you a little bit later. I'm going to leave the webinar on because I can't turn it off. I'll lose contact with you if I do. Okay.